All right, if I can do it, what we're trying today is we're going to try the Pivot Pegs MK4. I went with the MK4 over the MK3 because it's a little larger. MK3 I think was 60 by 85 millimeters, and this one MK4 was 60 by 100 millimeters. I'm a big guy, normal size feet, size 10, but I figured bigger surface area would be better. I was also looking at Lone Ranger foot peg. They're supposedly the standard in foot pegs now with their pivot pegs. But at $300, I went with the $200 ones. Pivot Pegs pivot, but they only pivot in one direction. Was also looking at Camels. They don't pivot, but they're only $99, and they're a little smaller too. So compromise, went middle of the road and went with the Pivot Pegs. I do have the Camel gut guard, well built, nice weld. It has a sub plate that goes in between the engine and the skid plate. I'm really liking that. So I wish I hadn't opened the Pivot Pegs yet, because I learned from that guy who says, "What, no way?" The "what, no way" guy, who learned it from someone else, and he puts it all to the test. But if you just squeeze these plastic packages, crinkle them, they really do open. I got a seal right there in the top. Was able to pry it open. Didn't need scissors, chainsaw, or any other apparatus to get them open. So what it comes with, you get your 2 pivot pegs. Comes with the instructions, which I went through the instructions. A little iffy about these. Hopefully be self-explanatory once I get my foot pegs off. The standard Harley foot pegs, they're held down by one of these spring pins. It goes into a hole on the bike. This doesn't have a hole on the foot peg, so they come with their own springs. Looks like it's going to wrap around. Looks like it's going to wrap around the foot peg, and this is going to go in the hole on the bike. Got your instructions. It came with a rebuild kit. Rebuild kit I think was $20, but right on the website they give you a code. If you enter the code, you get the rebuild kit for free. So that was nice. That actually covers the $20 in shipping. A little annoyed of that. If I'm spending $200, I like to get free shipping, but so total delivered, I think it was like $218 and some change. Little sticker and some other stuff for foot pegs. So, I'm going to attempt to take mine off. The standard ones, I already looked, seems relatively easy. And then I'll try putting these on. And I'll come back with a review once I try these out for a few weeks. To remove the pin holding the foot peg on, got a little button there that you have to press. Didn't pop out as easily as I'd hoped in watching other videos. If the button's not lined up, you can turn the pin by turning the whole foot peg, keeping your pressure applied on the top of the pin. As you put the foot peg back, mine was already lined up, but just showing you how you can do it. So once that's lined up, I saw people just pull it out with their fingers. I don't know if my fingers are weak or what, but I definitely used a pair of pliers to pull it out. Got a little tricky. But you get that first, past that first bracket piece, you keep the foot peg flush with the bottom to keep that button pressed. In theory, it didn't seem to happen very well with me, but got into the spring area and the button seemed to pop out again, so I had to just keep pushing it with the little screwdriver I had. Kept finagling the pin up bit by bit. Just kept working that. Got to the top part now, between the top with the bracket and the spring. And just kept working it, finagled it. One more press of the button. And it finally popped out. So installing the pivot pegs didn't make sense to me. Well, I didn't fully read the directions, didn't understand them. But with the spring, I was trying to line it back up with the hole in the bracket for the Pan America. And it just wasn't lining up, just wasn't making sense. So I had to recruit my buddy Tim. And it's as simple as pushing the spring from the pivot pegs against the bracket. Doesn't fit into a hole, it just rests up against it. Push in the pivot peg so it lines up with the pin. Put the pin back in, and then you're done. It's pretty simple, just not the most mechanically inclined. Here's my review of the foot pegs with the Z MK4. It's also the MK3, which is, I think, 30 millimeters shorter this way, which is about 1.2 inches. $15 cheaper. These are $199 versus $184. Don't think you could go wrong with either of them. My foot's not too big. I got a size 10. Last couple of days, did a 7-hour ride and a 5-hour ride. So put almost 400 or 500 miles on it. Didn't go with the toppers. Actually, a couple corrections first. I had stated that they only rotated one way when I hadn't put them on yet. That seemed kind of dumb, and that's because I was wrong. They rotate both ways, they pivot both ways. So that's nice. Took a quick second to get used to. It was kind of weird getting on and off for a second. Standing up, really no problem. And I do like that, the idea of them pivoting. Being nice and wide and having at a different angle, I can put my foot in a lot more different positions. Can have my heel hanging off and leaning forward. Can put my foot further back. Give my knees a little rest. I did notice that, it's closer to the shifter, so it's a little more difficult to shift. Nothing noticeable, but I may look into getting an update to an adjustable shifter. Brake not so much yet, but again, only 400 or 500 miles on it, so I might get an adjustable brake lever as well. The second correction, as I said, it was $20 for shipping. It's actually only $9.95. So the MK4 shipped to me was $208 and some change. I did not get the $20 topper. Knowing me, I probably wouldn't put it on there too often. And people had mentioned that, these things can tear up your boots. I think they were talking more about your everyday dress boots or something, which I'm not worried about, so I didn't go with the topper. Might be nice to have, all day on these. Did kind of start to feel it in my feet. These boots are old though. Don't have much cushion in them anymore, so I guess a personal preference if you want the plastic toppers or not. As far as the review, the width, the length, they're very comfortable standing up versus the stock peg. A buddy of mine, he tried them as well. He's a smaller guy, and he's going to go for them as he's going to upgrade to the foot pegs with the Z. He stands up a lot more than I do, and definitely standing on the stock pegs, his feet were killing him. Not killing him, but they were hurting. So he stood up on these, and he liked them a lot. Overall, Another con, and it's not necessarily their fault. You know, it's the design. It is what it is. But trying to back up, you know, them sticking out a little further, you definitely hit your leg a little more when you're trying to back up, when you're trying to straddle the bike. So maybe the MK3s being a little shorter, that might be a pro to go with the shorter ones. But overall, I would definitely recommend these. I would give it a 4.75 star, not a 5-star, because, you know, 5-star ratings are perfect. And again, the design, it's not necessarily their flaw, but there are some cons about it. Basically just the two, as far as sticking out further and being closer to the shifter. Again, that's not the company's fault. You want a bigger foot peg, that's what you're going to encounter. But I'd give it an A+. I would recommend them. I would go for it. Can't compare it to the Lone Rider, which is supposedly the top brand out there. It's a little bigger even. I'm not sure you necessarily need bigger, but these are great. Foot pegs with a Z. Do it.